Oh, that's pretty good. Got caught with the cough. Give it a couple minutes to see who we can get on here. Hopefully we have good signal today. Hello there, Chris. Just waiting to populate some other viewers. Hopefully we have good Wi-Fi tonight. Yeah, we cleaned up the water mess. That turned out to be about a 2-hour job. We're just giving it a couple minutes to get some other people on here. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. We got a good feed. It isn't breaking up or anything, is it? Diane's on here now too. Hang on, I'm going to turn on a light. How are we doing tonight? Alright, let's get started anyways. As people join in, we'll get this doing. First off, I have a little rant to go on here. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to what's going on with Bill Schuette, our Attorney General, and Brian Calley, our Lieutenant Governor. It's disgusting me what they're doing right now. They are playing the white knights for Flint, and it is annoying and disgusting and appalling that they're using Flint to jumpstart their campaigns for running for governor. Most of the people in Flint that I've talked to realize what they're doing, and I just find it disgusting that they're doing it. You know, they could have all started something to help Flint over a year and a half ago, and they're running in there like they're trying to save the town now, almost 2 years late. But I just hope that karma bites them in the butt on this one. They should have done. There's not just Governor Schneider, Brian Calley, and Bill Schuette, but there's 110 state reps and 38 senators that I hold accountable for what's going on in Flint. Any one of them could have started something for Flint to help the people. And that's one of the most appalling things that I have to say about those two right now. I mean, you got Bill Schuette turning around and pressing all these charges against the little people and you got class action lawsuits and RICO lawsuits coming up from the federal government on Governor Schleiger. And I'm going to look into this, but I'm going to check in to see how, as governor, we can make Rick Schleiger pay for his own legal fees. And if the state has to pay these to start, he's going to reimburse the state. There's got to be some way. I've said this before, even President Bill Clinton had to pay his own attorney fees through his fiasco in the government. I don't think Rick Schneider's any better. I mean, he is under charges, like I said, for RICO laws, and the people of Flint are going to file a class action lawsuit against him, according to the papers that I've been reading, or I should say the news feeds that I've been reading, not papers. But this conversation tonight is supposed to be about our veterans. I find it appalling how they're being treated. I've talked to quite a few veterans in the Ann Arbor area, Saginaw area, mainly those two areas. You do have families that say that the VA has treated their parent or loved ones really well, but when you talk to the actual veterans, the majority of them don't feel like they're getting good care. I mean, out of all reality, if you think about it, and this is just my opinion, but our veterans are giving their all, their sacrifice for our country. I think we ought to treat them better with health care than our own politicians. Some of them have given their lives to fight for the freedom of our nation. Others have gone over there doing what they're told and come back maimed, and their lives are messed up. But yet they're having to fight to get their medical benefits. I want to change that in Michigan. I feel for the gratitude we need to give our veterans, they need to be able to go to any medical facility that they choose. These medical facilities, now some people don't agree with this, but I think it's the right thing to do. I think our veterans should have free medical for their service in our country. It might be a heck of a bill, but the whole thing is, I think a lot of these doctors in these medical facilities, they can swallow some of the cost for our veterans. After all, they are out there defending our rights and our freedoms. I'd like to see Michigan take care of our veterans better than any other state in this nation. If I have a way of doing that, I will see that that is done. Now, there's a couple of my friends on Facebook that they talk highly of the VA system. I don't even use my veteran benefits for the simple fact I don't want to burden the system. And I'm still working, so I pay for my own insurance, and I use my insurance that I pay for. Not only that, most of the veterans that I've talked to, and this is the real bad one up in Saginaw, Michigan, they call up there to make an appointment, and half the time they can't get in for 3, 4, sometimes even a month for an appointment. Now, if it's an emergency, they can go to any hospital. That's a good thing at least. But I would like to change it so that they can see their own doctors. They can go to any medical facility in Michigan and not have to worry about a bill. I believe our medical system makes enough money, profits. I mean, I realize the majority of them are all for-profit organizations, but I think they can afford to swallow some of the cost for our veterans, not just put it all on the taxpayers. I mean, I'm seeing so much abuse in the system. Everybody's scrambling to fight for the almighty dollar. And when it comes to our veterans, I feel that is highly wrong. It's appalling, and I just don't think it should be done. We ought to be showing our gratitude to these men and women that are out there fighting for our rights and our freedoms. I mean, I have a lot of differences of opinions on the way our federal government's working, but I'm not running for that office. I'm running for the governor of Michigan, and I'm going to change a lot of things for our veterans. I'm going to show them the gratitude that they deserve for what they have given to this great nation of ours. There's got to be some way that we can turn things around for them. We have numerous, well, I'm going to say thousands of homeless veterans. Some of them are by choice. I have talked to one. When I've been into Lansing there, I managed to stop and talk to a veteran that was standing on the corner with a sign, homeless and hungry. I don't very often carry cash, but that day I happened to have a couple bucks on me, and I gave it to him. Well, he still gets a paycheck, and I was stunned to hear this. He gets a retirement check. He collects food stamps, and I says, why are you standing on the corner for handouts on if you're getting this? It's his way of trying to survive between his checks and his food stamps. He has no home, and that I found out was by his own choice. I didn't agree with it, but it's his choice. But there are veterans out there that are living under bridges and on park benches and in wooded areas throughout our cities. But that is not by their choice. They don't have the income to purchase a home or pay rent. Last time I checked, all these major cities, we have a ton of empty homes that could be repaired and given to a veteran. I'm not saying do this all through the system, but last week when I was on here, I told you about a guy who was fighting in Wayne County to save a home that he paid $2,500 for from property taxes. There's a lot of those homes that I've seen out there that you can purchase for $1,500. There was even a couple of them that were sold for $1 on the grounds that the person who bought them revitalized the homes and either rented them out as low-income homes or sold them. Why can't we do something like that for our veterans? Give them a home, a place to call home, to put their heads down. Most of them are still paying taxes, whether you realize that or not. Some have their Social Security checks that they still have, and they still buy food. I'm just trying to throw options out there. I have not come up with any solid ideas for some of these problems, other than the medical part for our veterans. That is something I feel we need to take care of as a nation for our veterans. If we can't get the nation to do it, I think the state of Michigan ought to be the first. That way we lead by example. There's all different forms of ways that we can even afford to pay for some of this. With the health care reforms that I had talked about on previous live feeds, like I had said with Blue Cross Blue Shield, I've talked to them over and over again. Well, let's say 3 times anyways. They won't let me up there to talk to them anymore. The whole thing is, if we lower health care insurance in the state of Michigan, if I were to open up Medicaid to everybody in the state for $500 a month for a family of 4 as the baseline, if there's less than a family of 4, it would be a little less. If there's more than 4, it would be a little bit more. That's right around 50% of what Blue Cross Blue Shield is charging. The average family of four pays between $1,000 and $1,200 a month with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, the insurance industry made $80 billion last year. The industry, that's not just Blue Cross Blue Shield. So the industry has an average, like I was saying, of $1,000 for a family of four. So when I told them they had to cut that by 50%, they said they couldn't survive. And I told them, you can't survive on $40 billion instead of 80. Now these are profit margins. And again, let me make this clear. I'm talking about the entire industry, not just one insurance company. So if I were to do that with the state of Michigan at the $500 a month for a family of four, that's roughly right around the $40 billion profit margin. Well, we would be an actual nonprofit. The $40 billion would go back into our veterans' health insurance. It would go back into the families that are actually on the welfare system, trying to help cover some of the cost of that. Plus, we're going to be working to get them back to work. But my main goal right now is to discuss our veterans. And I believe that would be the way to do it. You know, you can talk about raising taxes for here and there, but the way the system works right at the present moment, when they raise a tax, like they did with our gas tax, they raised it 7.5 cents. Now, that goes into effect January 1st. So, and a lot of people don't even realize that they raised it 7.5 cents, but they're saying this is all going to go for our roads. They've lied to us all along, so I doubt that entire 7.5 cents is going to go to our roads, along with the other 19 cents that's specifically designated as a gas tax, and along with the 15.99 cents, we'll just say 16 cents, that's designated as other sales tax and fees, but it's all attached to our gasoline. So if you add the 7.5 cents plus the 19 and then the 16, you're talking 35, 42.5 cents. That's without the federal 18.4. So we ought to have some pretty nice looking roads when they get through, wouldn't you think? Considering the fact that they're only spending at the high point of these last 5 years 13.75 cents on our roads. So that's a good idea why our roads are in such bad shape. Now, we can't blame this all on Governor Schleiger completely. It's happened over the last 30, 40 years that they've let our roads get into such bad shape. So with my administration, where this is going to be different is when we designate a tax, it will be used for what we are saying the tax is for. Now, I plan on, when I get elected, I'm going to rescind the gas tax back to 2014 levels. The only reason I'm saying that is because at the state level, that's 35 cents per gallon, and they're only spending 13.75. I figure we can revert it back to the 2014 and spend the whole 35 cents per gallon and get our roads in good shape. In the 4 years, after talking to CA Hull and some of the other big road companies out there, we can resurface a lot of roads in 4 years. You get a bunch of companies out there working different ends of the highways. You know, some of our roads we have to rebuild because we have heavy truck traffic. The resurfacing wouldn't just work for them. But the majority of the roads that are secondary that doesn't have a lot of heavy truck traffic, the resurfacing would last for 7 to 10 years, according to these companies. Now, I know I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but I'm trying to give you an idea where this administration is going to go. And I want you to realize what I've been talking about all along as well. The idea is to bring the state government back to the people. Not just take your tax dollars like they do now. All they do is they want to tax and spend. This is wrong. It's hurting the families of Michigan, and we need to stop it. We're going to do a complete tax restructuring in Michigan. When we designate this tax for this, it's going to go for that. In other words, if the gas tax is going to be taxed, it'll go for the roads and bridges like it's supposed to. Not split off to cover school expenses, not split off to cover medical expenses. It's for the roads and bridges only. That's what we want to do with Michigan's state and local governments. There's there's so many tax laws in the state of Michigan. It's not even funny. I mean, if you ever want to be amazed, go to your library and grab a book on the taxes of Michigan. You'd be amazed because it's in so many different volumes for different. They've got the tax code broke up. There's like 72,000 pages in all just for the state of Michigan. And a lot of these tax overlap each other. It's probably going to take my administration 4 years to break all these things down and simplify the tax structure. But the main ones we can do that affect our families, we can break those down and get them set up right away. The majority of the tax laws in Michigan are set up on businesses and corporations, however you want to look at it. We need to eliminate some of those regulations. They're holding back our manufacturing and construction and all these other ones. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take away regulations that protect the environment or protect our families. And I know when you start taking these regulations away, people are going to find other ways to get around them. Well, the idea is to bring jobs to Michigan. If we cut our taxes, get rid of some of the regulations that are pretty much worthless anyways, it should spark the economy. I mean, after all, John F. Kennedy done it in the 60s and the economy picked up. Ronald Reagan done it in the 80s and again, our economy picked up. I want to do that here in Michigan. And the more jobs we provide, even at the lower tax rates, the more taxes come into the economy. We start building and I want to redo our infrastructure. We have lead pipes in almost all our major cities in Michigan. They all need to be taken out and replaced so we don't have the same situation that happened in Flint, in Metro Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Saginaw. We want to avoid all this. So that'll be one of the main things. Now, when I say just infrastructure, I'm leaving the roads out of it. There is a specific tax for the roads. That has to stay with the roads. I've been looking at a couple other taxes to eliminate, but we still need to come up with an actual infrastructure tax. And if we do create a tax, it will be a fair tax. It won't be different for mom and pop businesses than it is for General Motors or our citizens. The idea is a fair tax structure, not like what we have right now that goes all over the board. Each county, their property taxes are different. I have a notebook over here that has every county, every township's tax for their properties and their businesses. They're all over the board. We need, if we were to have a property tax, which I plan on eliminating, we want to make sure that it's fair. In other words, if you're living in the Detroit metro area or you're living up in Curtis, up in the UP, the tax would be the same. No more, no less. I don't want people to think that they can just move out of the city and have a lower tax bracket or tax for property, which, like I said, I'm working on getting rid of. We won't get rid of the business property taxes, just the personal primary residence tax, okay, on your properties. I know, and people have argued with me, that's the taxes that pay our schools, They pay our police departments. They pay our fire departments. I've said it once and I'll say it again. 90% of your taxes that you pay, no matter what tax they all go to Lansing. I've said it over and over. Nobody has discounted on what I've said. I have not seen anybody complain or prove me wrong on this. They all go to Lansing. Lansing disperses them. You know, we need to, like I said, we're going to be cutting a bunch of taxes. And I've had them listed on the website at one point. And it just needs to be done. We need to put more money in our families' pockets so they can survive. I want to take away the different ways that people lose their homes. I think I said this last week. The number one reason that people lose their homes right now isn't jobs, like you would think. It's property taxes. Again, I'm getting off the subject with our veterans, but that to me is a simple fix with our veterans. We need to make sure they can go to any doctor, any hospital, any medical facility for their care. They need to be able to walk in, get their care, and walk out without a bill. After all, they are out there defending our rights and our freedoms. Now, I realize that by saying that, every veteran in the United States is going to want to move to Michigan. So in that regards, we're going to have to make it that they have lived in Michigan for at least 10 years, just to make it so that we don't have that situation and overburden our medical system here in Michigan. But that is where I'm going with all this. Our tax structures need to be changed. Our schools need to be kept up, and our classrooms need to be smaller. I just recently heard that we have some classes in schools that have 52 students in a class. That's ridiculous. How do they expect a teacher to teach 52 students? So, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, I have a couple more minutes that I'm going to stay on here and I'll answer your questions. If you have numerous questions, I'll stay on longer if I have to answer them. But do you think that is a good idea for our veterans? That's my main goal, is to make sure that they can walk into any medical facility in the state, being taken care of, and walking out without a bill. Yeah, like I said, you're right. It is a good point about the 10 years, because I don't want, by us eliminating the cost for the veterans on their medical bills, that would just have all the veterans from all over the United States moving to Michigan just because of free medical. I don't really think the term free is proper for it. I should say covered medical, not free, because they've earned it for their services to this great country. And I believe that's something they've earned, and that we the people should make sure it is taken care of. But yeah, we would have to put a definite limit on the amount of years before they would start getting it. Now, if they move to Michigan and they're here 10 years, well, then they could start receiving the benefits as well. So, but that's where I'm going with this. Well, thank you, Chris, for agreeing. The reason we shorten these live feeds up is because an hour is too long. People get bored. A reduced rate till they reach 10 years? No, it would be reduced because of the fact it would be the same as the average person here in Michigan. I'm going to use the baseline that I've used all along. It would still be, if they took the Michigan Medicaid, or I should say Michigan Medical, because we're not going to call it Medicaid for that portion. We're going to just call it Michigan Medical. But if they took the Michigan Medical, they would pay the same $500 for a family of 4. that is a reduced rate. And after they're here 10 years, then they would receive the covered medical for veterans. That answer your question, Chris? I hope I'm not talking too quiet. Giving up the soda drinking Gatorade. Hopefully that's better for me than soda. Or as I get yelled at all the time, it's pop in Michigan. It'll always be soda to me. Good, I'm glad I answered that question for you. About another 5 minutes and I'll be done with the live feed unless there's more questions coming. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep these to 30 minutes. You can always go back. That's a good question, Jim. How long have you been gone? How many years did you serve in the military also? I think, depending on how many years you've been out, oh, you've been out since then, huh? Never come back to Michigan, huh? Well, I would honestly say, I mean, you're talking about you were born here, you waited till you were 18, finished high school, and then went into the military is what I'm taking this as. But if you've been gone since 1984, I would say you'd have to wait the 10 years just to be fair, but you would still be eligible for Michigan Medical in order to, which is, like I said, is a reduced rate. And I take it you're right around my age, so you'd still be, what, 61, 62 if you were to move back today, and then you would be able to get your medical covered from the state for your veteran services. But I thank you for your services in our military. But all right, I'm gonna cut this short. Like I said, I'm going to try to stick to these 30-minute videos instead, or live feeds instead of the hour. We're not getting a whole bunch of questions here, so hopefully you understood where I was coming from on these veteran services and on the other things I've talked about. We are always on here. Every Sunday I'm going to start being on here again. We've been pretty good at it. I'm going to stay on here from 8 to 8:30 from now on. Some people said the live feeds were too long, so we did cut it down to a half hour. I don't want to bore too many people. I mean, after all, politics, even to me, are boring. And not only that, they make me angry because I hear all the stupid things that are going on. I mean, it seems they've lost all their common sense. Not a problem, Jim. I'm glad you are on a fair system. But yes, I think we need to treat our veterans better. And I with the cost that they're given for our country and their service, I believe they should have a no cost to them for their service. In other words, for their medical care. I mean, after all, a lot of them are going over there and they're being wounded, and I mean their whole lives are being changed for the rest of their lives. I mean, because they're all young kids when they go over, the majority of them, and they're being devastated. And when we come back, it's like our veteran system, the VA is turning their back on some of them. I don't want to see that happen to the veterans of Michigan. I want to make sure they're well taken care of. All right, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this shorter version of our live feed. And I see there's more people coming on as I'm getting off, but I just want to keep you informed on where I'm going with these projects that I'm talking about and the course I want to take Michigan on. So enjoy your evening, and blessings to you all, and thank you for coming on and listening to me rant. You have a good evening now.